to sincerely thank Ms. Anjanette Young for continuing to use this horrific moment in her life, this tragedy, to uplift others. I can't imagine, how that can be, just to kind of relive that every day. So thank you for that. I'd also like to, as Attorney Salter said, uplift my colleague, Alderwoman Haddon, for her leadership. So thank you for that, Alderwoman. And as the chair of the Chicago Progressive Caucus, I'm definitely honored to be joined by my African American sisters, Alderwoman Taylor, Alderwoman Hairston, and I know Alderwoman Coleman will be joining us soon as well. So I'm really honored to be joined by them. This is just really personal for us. And even if it weren't personal, it should be. But it hit us, very directly as African American women. We saw ourselves standing there as Miss Young, and so it hit us, very, very deeply. It's still hard to comprehend. I'll just be honest, the indignity that she was forced to endure. And as the hashtag and my colleague, Alderwoman Taylor, is so proudly wearing, we are Anjanette Young. We see ourselves deeply in her. But more importantly, we're empowered to do something about it. And so we are. And during this time of, racial recognition in this world, it's time. And so we need to seize this opportunity to make sure that there are strong mechanisms put in place so that this type of indignity doesn't continue to happen to others. We also, quite frankly, need to hold, those perpetrators who are there to protect us accountable for these inhumane acts. And what's almost embarrassing is that they're really common sense type of recommendations, right? That we're making, and I don't even know what to make of that, except that the deference that we're not given as human beings, quite frankly, is very clear when you think about, what is not taken into consideration. Simple things like confirming whether or not you got the right house. Are you coming to raid the right house? Are the people you're looking for, do they actually live in that house? Pointing guns at young, innocent kids, we really have to think twice before we, really put our youth and make them susceptible to this type of trauma that adults can't handle. So really just trying to avoid, raids when kids are home, and making sure that, if you do indeed have to raid a home, then to make sure that the dignities that you would afford, anyone, even people you don't like, are upheld. So these are, the basic types of intuitive recommendations that we are seeking to codify. I mean, it's really just that simple. But these are generally why laws are put into place, really to seek and serve justice. And so that's what we are seeking to do, to take a tragic, kind of inhumane uh, uh, episode that, the world has been exposed to, and thankfully so. Unfortunately, Miss Anjanette Young had to, be at the other end of that. But if this weren't all brought to bear, we wouldn't be here talking. And so I again thank her for her humility and courage to take this tragic incident and spur us to action as African American women who have been put into a place to do something about it. So You know, we're ready to go and to push this, but this is why we need to do this. It's basic humanity that we are trying to make sure is codified, and it's sad that we have to do that, but you know, again, that's why laws are made to seek justice.
Thank you so much, Alderwoman King. Appreciate your leadership on this. Alderman Hairston, would you share a few words with us?
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody for joining in, and I'd like to thank everybody in this working group for being steadfast and consistent in coming together in meeting. You know, it's sad that we have to go through these measures in this day, but we do. And this is the second time in my life that I am dealing with these issues. And it's really unfortunate and it is exhausting. But it is through the courage of people like Ms. Young that inspires and invigorates us to leave no stone unturned and to see until it is complete. And there is no reason why it should be taking this long for the City Council of the City of Chicago to get a hearing on this ordinance and to get it passed. It makes absolutely no sense. And as a Black woman who has been discriminated against, that has been racial profiled, that has been targeted, that has received death threats, has received bullets in the mail during my short time on this earth. And it's still not, that we're still dealing with these issues. And it's unfortunate that we are living in a time where we are not believed until we have irrefutable evidence that what we're saying, because for years and years we have been saying this, and until we have had video, we have been dismissed. We have been dismissed as a people. Racism is not dead in Chicago, and it's surely not dead in the United States. But there's something about the city of Chicago and reform that we don't get it right. And we keep getting it wrong. And even when we're told what to do and how to do it, we can't manage to do it. And so there needs to be a way that we change this and that we make the changes in our police department and in our city government so that we actually get something done. Changing the top is not going to make the change happen. We have to get in and change the meat, where the decisions are made, where people are being trained and where they're training these officers. That's where we make real change. We put something out there and then they've always got a counteroffer instead of dealing with the issue. And this has been the practice and the policy here that has got to stop. If you are going to raid a home, you need to know that there is something of some significance or importance that is in that home. Why are you raiding a home for nothing or a few joints? That makes no sense, and that's a waste of resources. That's a waste of resources. So we have to change the way in which we identify who provides information. And if you're not providing information, you don't get to say anything. We also need to look at whether our judges are doing their due diligence when these officers come before them and ask for a warrant. They need to follow up afterwards. There needs to be accountability. Did this actual warrant, did they get something? Did they get something of value, something of significance? Because in most times they don't. In over 1,500 raids, they've got what they call, a negative raid, which means they got nothing. But to the average citizen, we've got our house messed up. We've sometimes got our kids in the room. We've got trauma. We've got so many issues that they never have to account for. And what we are attempting to do is to correct this and make it a way in which there are true guidelines that are actually followed, and that there are consequences if they are not followed, and that we have a way to keep them accountable and keep their books open so we know what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hairston. And thank you for all your efforts over your years in council on these important issues of reform. You've been a real leader, and we appreciate you. Last but not least, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor.
Good evening, everybody. First, I want to say to Ms. Young, thank you for turning this trauma into a triumph. I know this is not easy for you. And I'm just gonna say it. If you were a white woman, we would not be here. And so I also want to send a blessings to Miss Blessing Game, who had a raid in 2015. The person was in prison and they pulled guns on her children. We gotta do stuff that is common sense. And what happened to Miss Young is not common sense, because if this was your mother, if this was your daughter, if this was a friend, if this was a woman, period, you wouldn't allow her to stand naked at any time. And I always say we all are Miss Young. And so Black women have a history of fixing it. And Miss Young, our word to you is we will fix it. And in the words of Alderwoman Harrison, we don't want your crumbs. Don't give us the alternative. Get us what we need. And so, Ms. Young, I appreciate you and I thank you, because some people would have took the money and not cared. But you actually care about what happened to women in our community, not just Black women, but women all over. And so I thank you and appreciate that. I'm going to tell you all what we're asking for. It bans CPS to use no-knock or knock warrants. You don't give families enough time to get themselves together. And I'm just going to say it because it needs to be said. The difference between Breonna Taylor and Ms. Young is Ms. Young is alive to tell her story. There was no difference. It was absolutely the same. And had Ms. Young not been able to stand up for herself and say, you're at the wrong house, will we be having a memorial service for her? Would they be paying her family, which could never make up for who she is, and it will never bring her back? It requires them to corroborate the tips. So somebody got paid for an informant tip to raid Ms. Young's home, and they were wrong. So we, the citizens, that when you go to the store and pay your taxes, this is what your tax dollars paid for. So they actually paid somebody for the wrong information and the wrong home. It also requires them to execute the warrant by not tearing up your home. How many times have we seen them tear down doors, windows? They just discombobulate your entire home. And to Alderwoman Harrison's point, they don't find nothing, or they find a joint. Lead is legal. Marijuana is legal in here. So now what's the excuse? Now you have no excuse to do these raids. And it also talks about to stop pointing guns at children. How many times have we seen over and over and over and over and over and over again, them pointing guns at children as young as 3 years old? That is not tolerated. And if they were not people of color, this would not happen. It also requires officers conducting raids to keep on their body cameras. How many times have we seen them cover up the camera? Or say you hear from a sergeant to say, cut it off. That's not what we're paying for. We're paying good money. CPD use 38% of this city budget. We're paying good dollars for them not to turn their cameras on and cover it up. No, that's supposed to be to protect the officer, but also protect the citizens. And most importantly, it requires accountability for wrongful raids. I still have not heard the officers apologize to Ms. Young. And so maybe that ain't something Ms. Young want, but that's what I want. You all owe her an apology. And not quietly, like you looked at them cameras, not quietly after you told her to be quiet, this was a mistake, we'll get it fixed, and you tried to fix her door. As loud as you was kicking down her door, as loud as you need to be with her an apology. I don't know what other way to say that we cannot continue to do the same things over and over again and ignore people of color. To Alderwoman Harrison's point, we've been saying this for years, and now you got to get it on camera. My word as a Black woman is not good enough. What if Miss Young didn't have the cameras? Then is she made to be a liar? No, the city of Chicago is lying. That's what it is. And the thought that you don't have 50 people who are agreeing to this ordinance, we definitely got a problem. And so what I'm saying to you all is, whoever your alderman, alderwoman, alder person is, you need to reevaluate your vote for them, because we are supposed to be in the business of serving and protecting the constituents who pay. Let me go back to that. Who pay for us to represent them? And that's not who we're representing. The thought that there are those few names on there is problematic. And Ms. Young was not the first, and she won't be the last, the way this city is run. If we continue to elect the same fools, and I said what I said, I don't take back what I said, the same people in office who ignore us. Watching Ms. Young stand naked, I don't care if she was naked for 2 minutes. Seeing her naked at all says to me that we got a real problem with respect for women. How many women are missing in this country? How many rapes go unsolved? How many times are women killed and nobody does anything? Enough is enough. You either stand with us or get rolled over.
Alderwoman Taylor, you're always my closer. Thank you. Thank you so much for your words. I want to welcome folks who I know joined maybe after we started, and let you know as we're kind of continuing. You're going to hear next direct stories from 2 people who've been impacted by wrong raids, right? What we're talking about, what you heard from my colleagues, what you heard from Mr. Salter, we're talking about these police raids. We're talking about the ordinance that we've introduced to reform them, to chip away and to codify some of the common sense policies that are protecting the human and civil rights of Chicagoans. Ms. Jolanda Blasingame is with us tonight, and you may not have heard her name, but in 2015, in January 2015, her home was raided. She's here to speak with you and share with us about her story. And after Ms. Blasingame, we're going to hear from Dr. Charlie Dates, who's going to share with us a bit of kind of his perspective and give an intro for Ms. Young. And then after that, you're going to hear from some of our legal support on this effort to get into hopefully answering. I see some of the questions there really about why this is different, right? Like, why an ordinance? How is it different from the policy chain? And why might this give us some different results? So I want to turn it over to Ms. Blasingame. Thank you for being here with us tonight and for sharing your story and for being such a courageous person. Oh, and you'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jolanda Blasingame. Back in January 2015, I had just got off work. I was making the kids some chicken, as I recall. I was cooking dinner. I have 3 boys, and my nephew, he was at the house with me at the time. I always have him with me. They were ages, my nephew was 11 at the time. My oldest son was 11 at the time. And my other 2 sons were 6 and 4. So I was in the kitchen, and I just walked to the front to make sure they were doing their homework still, to check on the kids and the homework. My 2 youngest were in the front doing homework, and the older 2 boys were in the room playing a video game. So as I'm walking back to the kitchen, I just heard like banging at the door. I thought someone was trying to break into the house. So I do have my concealed carry. So all I was thinking, like in my back of my head, like, is somebody trying to break into the house? Do I need to get my gun or what? So at the time, I wasn't even thinking about going to get my gun. I was just thinking about the kids. So I just heard the loud thumping and banging, and I'm running to the front and getting the boys, and I'm trying to take them out the front door because that was at the back door. So as I'm going out down the front stairs, because I stay on the 2nd floor. So as I'm going down the stairs, all I hear was the loud banging from the front door. So I'm thinking, hold on, this can't be somebody breaking in from both doors. So I run back up the stairs with the boys because I'm like, okay, there's got to be the police coming in the house. So me and the boys run into the front room where they were first at. I'm looking out the window, trying to raise up the window, trying to see if, I can see from the front window. At that time, I heard like the bang, and I looked out the door back to the kitchen, and I saw like nothing but like a loud light and smoke everywhere. So I knew they had threw a smoke bomb grenade inside the house. It was smoke everywhere. So I closed the door. Me and the kids were on the floor. My nephew was trying to jump out the window. He was only 11. I'm like, no, stay down, get down, get down. So I made him stay down. And that's all I heard was there's footsteps coming to the front room where we were at. And they busted in the door we were at. They had like big machine rifle guns pointing at us. I'm like, who are you here for? What are like, kept asking questions like, what are you here for? Who are you? What are you here for? I'm like, it's kids in the house. It's just me and my kids in the house. And they just cursed at us. Get the F on the floor, shut the F up. I kept saying, these are kids, get the gun out the kids' face. So at that time, I'm just on top of the kids because I thought they were going to shoot. I really thought they were going to shoot one of the kids by mistake. So I just got on top of the kids. I did like, if somebody gets shot, just shoot me, don't shoot the kids. So I'm on top of them, I'm crying. I'm like, it's just, these are kids. There's no one here. Who are you looking for? So they just kept saying, just shut the F up. So I just got quiet. I'm not telling the kids, stop crying, just be quiet. So he checked the closet in the room where we were at. He said, it's clear. He said, y'all get the F out, go in the kitchen. So we go in the kitchen. At that point, there is police in front of us, police in the back of us, marched us to the kitchen, guns pointed at us from the front and the back. And I'm like, you see there's 6, 4, and 11. Why the guns still pointed at the kids? He just shut up. We'll tell you when you get in the kitchen. So I'm getting really like agitated at that point. I'm just crying. The kids are crying. I felt like real, I felt so like I couldn't protect the kids because I was, it's like I'm getting choked up right now, just thinking about what happened. So we make it to the kitchen. They have to get on the floor. They got the guns pointed at us still. And we were in the kitchen for 3 hours on the floor. They it took for like, it was a black police lady that came in. At that point when she came in and a white cop, he had on a white shirt. So I guess he was the sergeant. The black lady and the white sergeant came in and they were like, okay, I guess it took for them to come in for them to put the guns off us. So at that point, that was after like 30 minutes of the guns being on us. He said, get up off the floor. He told the kids to stay on the floor, but told me to get up. He told me to go in the room. At that point, I go in the room. It's cops in there. My room was tore up. My bed was tore up. The ceiling vent, it was a vent in the ceiling. They tore it off the walls. They stole my jewelry. They stole the car keys to a car that I had outside. They just tore the whole house up. The TVs were tore up. It's like they just threw everything everywhere. There's one cop, he just kept cursing at me. And then I got to tell him, I'm like, why are you cussing at me? Have I cursed at you? He said, you can shut the F up, I'm taking you to jail. I said, you can't take me to jail, I haven't done anything. So, like I said, I have my concealed carry, I have my gun in my drawer. Whose gun is? I said, it's my drawer, it's my gun, this is my dresser, this is my gun. I have my concealed carry, my phone card, everything. He didn't want to see that. He said, get the F out. So as I'm leaving out the room, he told me to go back in the kitchen, get on the floor. I see another cop come in with a green bed, a green bed. He goes into the room with the bed. And then he comes back out. He's like, well, if I found something here, I'm going to take you to jail. Your kid's going to be in DCFS custody. And I'm like, well, you know what? I said, I have never been locked up. I never had a background. I've never been to jail. I don't have a record. I said, I just graduated out of college. I'm doing good. I'm thinking like, okay, they from leave because, I know there's nothing in my house. So they come out, they didn't find anything. He leave. He said, you know what? We're going to go now. After 3 hours, they tore the whole house up. We was in the kitchen the whole time. My chicken burnt up. He went into the cupboard. He tasted flour. It was flour. Because he asked, what do you think I'm cooking? Crack, drugs, something? I'm like, what is this flour? I'm making chicken. He tasted chicken. Oh, okay, yeah, it is flour. They were real snotty, real rude, just like real belligerent. The black lady just stood there the whole time. Get this trying to play good cop, bad cop. She just like, just calm down. Like, how can I calm down? You guys have guns pointed on me and my kids. They're 6, 4, and 11. Like, what do you mean calm down? I was afraid. The kids were screaming. They kept telling the cussing at me and the kids, telling the kids to shut the F up, stop crying. How you gonna tell a 4-year-old to stop crying? So at that point, it's like after 3 hours, they left. I called my sister real quick. I'm like, could you guys come to the house before they even made me? I'm like, I just need somebody here because they didn't have any cameras on, no body cameras on, nothing at the time. I guess it wasn't at that year, when 2015, it wasn't, they didn't have to have cameras on at the time, I guess, because they didn't have any cameras. I wish they did. They would have started everything what happened in the house. My sister came, and as they were coming up the stairs, they were telling her, yeah, we scared the kids. We threw flash bombs in there, laughing because they threw the flash smoke bombs in at the kids. The police was laughing about that. My sister's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm gonna get your job. I want your name and everything. He said, yeah, if you can get it. He was cracking jokes, laughing because he had us afraid and the kids were crying. So I'm like, what type of police officer does that? Like down to this day, I can't call the police for help because my kids don't believe in the police. They don't trust the police. Every time I'm driving, the police get behind us. The kids get down on the floor. I'm like, why are you on the floor? Because the police, we don't know what the police do. We don't trust the police. It's like now, my kids don't trust the police. I can't, if I need help, I don't feel like I call on the police for help. I took my son to the hospital recently, like last week. He was complaining about his chest hurt. So I took him to the hospital, and then the nurse was like, well, there's nothing wrong with him. She's like, have you had nightmares? I'm like, yeah. He's had nightmares, off and on since the raid. They didn't know anything about the raid. She came out and said, yeah, well, I think it's stress because, he's been diagnosed with PTSD. I'm like, yeah, I know that. So it was like, to me, I'm like, wow, they have all this in the system about my child. About, because they're in counseling. They've been in counseling ever since this happened. So yes, they do have, since this happened, they've been not doing good in school. They stopped eating a lot. When they stopped eating, one of my sons he don't even go outside anymore. Since then, he wouldn't go outside since 20, he's now 16. He don't even go outside at all since that happened. The kids are just afraid. Every time they see the police, they get afraid. So it's I don't know what to do, or how to help them, even though I haven't been counseling since that happened. It's an ongoing therapy thing with them. I'm just trying to help them the best way I can. I can take it better than them because I'm an adult. The kids can't handle it as well as I can handle it. So it's just I'm just afraid for them now. So I don't know how I can help them as far as counseling. I've been talking to different people about it. And the only thing I just do, I pray about it, I go to church. That's the only thing I can do. The person they were looking for was in jail already, serving a 40-year prison sentence for murder. He was in jail 9 years already, I think, at the time when they came to the house looking for him. The house was empty. New people had bought the building when I moved in. I was the first person to move in since the house had been sold. So if they did their research, they would have known that the man they were looking for was in jail already, serving a 40-year prison sentence. So whatever information you get from the informant, you should have known. You got the wrong information. And then he said he was doing surveillance. When you're doing surveillance, you would know that it's only me and my 3 boys staying in an apartment. So it's like you said, no amount of money can count for what happened, for what has been. Like I said, my kids are already traumatized about everything. So it's I don't know what else to do now at this point.
Thanks, Ms. Blassingame. And I just want to sit with your testimony for a moment and just reflect back. The kids, right? They were 6, 4, and 11 years old, spending 3 hours being traumatized by police who were at the wrong house with guns pointed at you, being treated with total disrespect and disregard. And if I, as you talk about the time period, there weren't cameras. You guys are going to see a little bit of a presentation and a map tool that we've got later to give you a bit of a visual idea of how many of these wrong raids happen. And Ms. Bossingham, I just really appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for still being here in this city. Thank you for doing all you can to care for yourself and for your kids. I see some of the commentary in the chat. I know that this ordinance and the types of changes that we're trying to make with it can feel like a drop in the bucket, you guys. It can feel like a really small piece. It can be obviously too little too late for some people. But we know that if these are changes we can make, we must do them because it's going to make a difference for someone. It's going to make a difference for the next person like Miss Blossingame and the next person like Miss Young and Miss Blossingame's kids. And that's why we're here tonight. So I appreciate you, Miss Blossingame, for being here. Our next speaker is Dr. Charlie Dates. And Pastor Dates, thank you for being here. And I know you've got a few words to share with us, and you'll get to intro Miss Young.
Thank you for having me. And I am most grateful to be here because I'm Anjanette Young's pastor and the pastor of Deacon Keenan Salter as well. My name is Charlie Dates, and I serve as the senior pastor of Chicago's historic and iconic Progressive Baptist Church. After listening to Ms. Blossingame's story and reflecting upon Maria's words, I want to say to everybody on this call, never underestimate how one person can change the course of human history. It's often the people who are marginalized, trampled underfoot, who bring about the greatest change in the world as we know it. The history of Black America would suggest the same, and I think even right now, the history of Black Chicago would say the same. Most of you know from 1915 to 1919, about 500,000 people moved to Cook County alone. By the end of 1965 or 66, there were more Black people living in Cook County than there were in the entire state of Mississippi. And people from all regions of the South had push and pull effects to bring them to the city, and they endured a lot of heartache and pain. It was not a rosy transition for them, but from their struggle has come some of the greatest advancements for Black people in America today. You think about Mississippi sending some of its brightest and best to Chicagoland, and the beauty even in our Bronzeville neighborhood that has resulted. You be inspired to know that Anjanette Young's story is on the continuum of that line. She may not have been part of the first or second Great Migration, but she is on loan to us in a real sense from the South. And well, she's come in already making a remarkable change. She serves her church with the kind of gentility and kindness so strong, we had to put her at the front door. We had to put her at this place where most people who are experiencing our church for the first time would run into her kindness. But she also had kind of steel-toe personality to help bring about the transition we needed from the previous people who were standing at the door to the folk who are there now. And so when Anjanette fell into, almost in one sense, it seems like coincidentally, but I think serendipitously, fell into difficult trouble, it was as if God knew that this woman from the South could help be a door hinge, a page turner, a major moment for change in Black Chicago. And so I say all of that to say, we will not despair. We will not lose hope. We have faced and suffered indignities and injustice, but we will not give up. And we will not win this with violence ourselves. We're going to win this because God is on our side. And if ever there were a time where you and I needed to believe that there's power supernaturally so bigger than ours, this is it. The forces we are up against, they are wicked, they are evil. We need good to overcome wicked and evil. Only light can cast out darkness. And I'm here tonight to introduce to you a woman who has shown the light and who will continue to shine the light. And we tell Anjanette, we say to our church, no lie can live forever. No indignity, no injustice will reign supreme. And though she has gone through this trauma and we are witnessing with her and standing with her, all things really do work together for the good of them who love God and are the called according to his purpose. So with no further words from me, I want y'all to hear from the sister after whom this ordinance is appropriately named. And when it comes to pass, when change does come about in our city, I want you to remember these words that I spoke. And I want you to remember this personality who's about to speak to you today. God really can use people who seem to live on the margins to bring about change for all of us. Welcome now, Anjanette Young.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, Pastor Charlie, for those words. Thank you for your love, your kindness, your support, your phone calls, your prayers. They mean the world to me. And if you guys don't know about Dr. Charlie Dates, check out some of our videos. Check out some of the links on our website. He's an amazing man of God, who I am absolutely honored to sit at the feet and learn and glean as it relates to my relationship with God. So with that being said, I want to first, Miss Blessing Game, words can't, there are no words for what you're experiencing. There are no words for what your children are experiencing. As someone who is a social worker and has worked many, many years, I've been a social worker for over 20 plus years, about 25 years. And I've worked with families and children. And so I know what your children are experiencing. I know what you are experiencing as it relates to trying to live and recover from such a horrific experience. It doesn't go away, and it's not easy to deal with. And so I send blessings and prayers to you and your family, that you will continue to, keep your children in therapy, continue to do therapy for yourself, some self-care. And I will continue to pray that God will cover your children, and you and your children will find a way to move forward in the midst of. With that being said, I want to thank everyone who's here tonight, for supporting me through this process. My family has been a huge support. Again, my pastor, my attorney, oh God, my attorney. You guys, I have the most amazing attorney ever. Very parallel, if not better, than Ben Crump. That's what I say. And I get the personal plus the legal from him. He's like a big brother. He's protective of me, but he's a beast when it comes to the legal game and what it is that he needs to do for me as my attorney. And so, Kenan, I love you. I thank you. I love your family. I thank your family for loaning you to me. And then I have so many friends, church members. My beloved social work community has been a huge support to me as well. So I cannot start anything tonight with those thank yous. Very special thank you to Alderman Hatton for your lead in this, and taking charge and pushing this forward, and supporting me, supporting the bigger cause in this. My name is on it. This started because of my experience, but this is larger than Anjanette Young. And it is my hope that, once we push this forward, not if, but we will push this forward. And once we push this forward, that we will continue to fight for all women and children and families, Black and brown communities, so that they don't have the type of experiences that I had. Now I want to speak directly to all of you who have not signed on, who have not given your support to this, this ordinance. What are you waiting for? I don't know what the challenge may be for you. I don't know what your hesitancy is, but if you've seen the videos and they're out there, I would challenge you to dig deep into your heart and do the right thing by joining on to this ordinance. There is no reason why all 50 aldermen are not signing on to this. And if I need to come and have a personal conversation with you to help you to understand why this is so important, then I welcome an invite so that we can have that conversation. And so I'm here today because God wanted to use me for such a time as this. In our country and across the world, as we're wrestling with racial injustices, He didn't allow the enemy to take me out. He didn't allow the enemy to take my life. I am thankful for that. When this incident first happened, I struggled with my faith. I struggled, and I asked, where was God that night? Because I've always been a woman of faith, and I've always prayed as a single woman that I would be safe in my home and that God would cover me, when I sleep at night. So I wrestled with where was God in that moment. I have now been able to reflect, and Breonna Taylor's story answered that question very much for me. God was there. He was protecting me. He never left me in that moment, although it felt like it. And our flesh feels certain thing, but my spirit tells me now, and I know now, and I can stand assured and say that God was there in that moment covering me. And even though I didn't like it, he allowed me to have that experience for a greater cause. And that's why we're here today. Chicago is a mixed bag of good and evil. And it's not exclusive to just Chicago. But Chicago has a level of corruption that has a deep root that needs to be dug out. And no one is exempt from a sinful act. However, as my pastor would say, and he has said many times, that we have a responsibility to have short of sin accounts. And what does that mean? That means that we have a right that when we view sin, or when we experience sin, or when we are participating in sin, that we have a responsibility to not only stop, but also change that so that we don't continue that particular sin. What the officers did to me on that night, February 21st, 2019, it was an act of sin. There was 12 white men who did not acknowledge me as someone who deserved respect or dignity. And that only comes from a place of sin, a place of hate. They may not have hated me as a person, Anjanette Young. They didn't even know who I was that night. But the fact that there is some sinful, hateful nature about them that allowed them to stand there and allow me to stand there in that presence, fully unclothed, and not view me as someone who should deserve respect, someone who should have been protected. Their job is to serve and protect. And they did not view me that way. I was invisible to them on that night. And so we have an amazing opportunity right now. We have an opportunity to choose a different path. And that's for all of us here, everyone who is listening to me. We have an opportunity to lead our city to a place of grace and forgiveness. And when I say our city, our elected officials, our mayor, our police department, our Superintendent Brown, we have an opportunity to show them what it means to lead this city with grace and forgiveness. And so with that being said, we want to hold them accountable for what has happened. And we wanted, this ordinance would help us to show police officers and others what it means to treat people with dignity and respect. And this ordinance would allow us to hold police officers accountable when they don't act in that manner. So I am saying today, for all of you who have not signed on to this ordinance, please, please, please join us in supporting the Anjanette Young ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Young. I'm glad we're recording this. I'll just leave it at that for the sake of time. Appreciate your words and all the time and the energy you're putting into this, but also really want to lift up and appreciate all the hope that you've got for us, right? The hope that you've got for everyone that's listening tonight, and the hope that you still have for our city, and the fact that we can do better. We have opportunities to do better and to make things different. So I appreciate that. Want to move on to our next speaker. So Mr. Craig Futterman. So our legal mind working on the ordinance with us. Craig, thanks for being here and for sharing a little bit. I know some folks, maybe I'll just prompt you, it's unusual to put this kind of thing in an ordinance, and maybe you want to share a little bit about why we're going that route and what type of additional accountability we're looking for there. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you, Alderman. The ordinance is rightly named after you, Ms. Young, who have shown more courage than I have words. Who fought to share a video of what the police department did to you, exposing yourself when most vulnerable. Just as another Southsider, Mamie Till, fought to expose the truth about her son. And most courageously for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to stop this from happening to anybody else. And so thank you, and thank you for fighting alongside others who've been most impacted, like Ms. Blassingame and her children. And thank you, Ms. Blassingame, to uplift others. Thank you both. Y'all, the Anjanette Young Ordinance is about protecting families from the police department's practice of violent, wrongful raids that have targeted the homes of thousands of innocent Black and brown families in Chicago, to protect our families, to honor Black women who are rightly leading this charge, to make us safe. And as you heard from Ms. Blassingame and Ms. Young, CPD's raids hurt real people, real families, not just any families, because as Attorney Salter told you and stressed, CPD has targeted Black and brown families in particular for this abuse. As CPD's own data show, their raids are concentrated almost exclusively in Black, brown, and low-income neighborhoods. CPD doesn't raid the homes of the white and the wealthy. And we're talking about raids, 1,500 raids a year, 1,500 home raids a year. That's more than 4 separate families every day. Bursting into people's homes, pointing assault rifles at little kids, terrorizing families, treating people with less respect than a junkyard dog. And then leaving families, as I told you, with broken doors, vulnerable to more predatory behavior. Whatever happened to life, you break it, you fix it. And as Breonna Taylor's family knows all too well, each of those raids come with the ever potential for deadly consequences. And for what? Vast majority of these raids are about illegal drugs. Vast majority of raids for illegal drugs. Yet, you know what? CPD actually found drugs in less than 5% of their raids. Nearly 3,000 families. Chicago police raids between 2016 and 19 failed to result in even a single arrest. They have not made us safe. Instead, they've caused irreparable harm. No accountability, not even for all those times that officers pointed guns at little children. No transparency to the public. CPD doesn't even document when it targets the wrong address, the wrong home, much less report to any of us about what happens during those 1,500 raids they perpetrate every year. The force they use, the harm they inflict, the number of children they terrorize. Also just want to give a quick shout to CBS 2 because CBS 2 deserves some real gratitude of the entire city for its multi-year investigation exposing CPD's pernicious practice to the public. Because as Alders King, Hairston, Taylor, and Haddon explained, this ordinance, the Anjanette Young ordinance, will save lives, will reduce harm, and will give the people of Chicago and the city the power to hold the department accountable for the pain it causes. CPD will no longer be allowed to conduct these raids in secrecy without public accountability. To close, if there's one thing that we've learned from our fight to improve police accountability, service, public safety, is that these violent raids aren't going to stop unless people of Chicago stand up and speak out alongside Ms. Young, alongside Ms. Blassingame, to hold our alders, as Alder Taylor said, to hold our alders and mayor accountable for what they do. Let them know that there's going to be political consequences if they fail to do everything in their power to just pass the Anjanette Young ordinance into our municipal code to make it the law of our city, because as Alder Haddon said, this isn't just about changing the Chicago police policy that the superintendent can change any day, any minute, the next minute. This is about making it part of our municipal code, a part of our laws. Last summer, months before, and this is why we need it, months before Ms. Young's video ever went viral, a diverse community-based coalition made up of some of the same organizations you've seen here that Mr. Salter talked about, who's sponsoring this ordinance, from Black Lives Matter Chicago to the West Side branch of the NAACP. And we asked the mayor to meet with us to address these raids. We did this as a part of a role, and this is the other legal aspect of the federal consent decree over the police department, wrote a formal letter, highlighted Miss Young's story, Miss Blasingame story, the stories of hundreds of other Black and brown families, shined a spotlight on the data, the real human suffering, lack of accountability, transparency, and also showed the solutions, the same solutions that we researched, national best practices, drawing on the lived experience of the people of Chicago, detailed what needs to happen to stop this, the kinds of changes reflected in the Anjanette Young Ordinance. We've met to work together to end these raids, despite that consent decree, despite everything else. You know what we heard back? We heard back crickets. In September, the Illinois Attorney General joined our call. Same thing. CPD mayor's response, more crickets. In December, last thing, and I'll close, following the international scandal, as a result of the city's efforts to hide, because the city didn't tell the truth about what happened to Miss Young, but they fought to hide that truth. And following more public pledges by the mayor and CPD to work with the community, we write the mayor, top lawyers again requesting, meet with us, let's work together to implement solutions urgently. More crickets. What we've learned is rather than work together with the people who've been most impacted, the mayor and superintendent once again decided to go it alone, leave the community on the outside, outside looking in, and rather than do what needs to be done, they're trying to push through another unilateral edict, and that's what's different here. This isn't a unilateral edict. This is something that's been done by the people of Chicago, by Black women also who are leading this charge, as rightly so. Rather not a unilateral edict that continues to allow the police department to target Black and brown families for abuse, meaning more violent, wrongful, racist raids. Don't be fooled by the okie doke. We got to stand up, speak out together, like folks are doing this evening, force the mayor, force the CPD to do what it's refused to do, pass the Anjanette Young Ordinance, stop the violent raids.
Thank you so much, Craig. I'm sharing a link here in the chat because someone asked for kind of a highlight of some of the things that the ordinance does. So there's a link to our website home. But we're also getting into the space where now we're talking about what you can do. So this is our call to action section. So we're going to start off with Lucretia Burtz and Rebecca Cook. So Rebecca Cook is with West Side Branch of the NAACP, and Lucretia Burtz is with the Worker Center for Racial Justice. Thank you both for your leadership on this, and you've got the floor.
Okay. Hey, y'all. I hope y'all can hear me okay. Again, I am Lucretia Burtz. I'm the field organizer for the Worker Center for Racial Justice. First and foremost, I want to thank Miss Anjanette and Miss Blasingame for stepping forward and telling their stories. I also want to thank the Black women alderwomen who are leading this effort. Shout out to all of them who are on this call. And the community organizations demanding justice, and the women on the ground who came together to take action. I know I was out there protesting myself earlier when the story was when it first came out. And I also want to thank all the male allies who also stepped up to take action around this too. And thank you all for joining us today. Bottom line, the cops' response to Miss Anjanette was inhumane and symbolic of a deep dehumanization lurking in our police departments. Not even in a hospital where you intentionally go to have your body checked and examined are you left standing completely bare and exposed. If Miss Anjanette had been the wife, mother, sister, or aunt of those particular officers, they would have demanded proper treatment and respect. And because they didn't treat her like a woman or a human being of value, we must. We all have a role to play in correcting this traumatizing behavior and demanding that our humanity be protected at all times. In order to have accountability, we need our elected officials to carry this ordinance to the finish line. There are already, again, all the women on this call who are already doing that. However, we need all of our city council members to stand up and to support this ordinance. And I'm specifically calling out the Black Caucus. Every Black Caucus member should be supporting this ordinance. And the fact that they're not is a problem. And it's a problem that we shouldn't wait until election time to address. For the rest of us, we also have a role to play. As citizens, we are the true keys of accountability. We have to remember that the police and our elected officials, they work for us. So we have to push them. in order to do what's right. And in order to push them, we're going to have to call, we're going to have to email, and we're going to have to join in collective action to demand change. And again, I thank all of you for being on this call with us today, because all of you are taking a step to create action and accountability. So thank you for being a witness today. But I'll step aside and let Rebecca finish up, and we'll explain that cool tool that we just shared in the chat.
Thank you so much, Lucretia. So we are here supporting this great cause, but this is not all we have to do. I'm asking that we can share the screen of the barcode that we created for individual petition. We have a petition with 400 organizations, but we also have a petition just for individuals, because we need to have support to each one of our aldermen to go to them and say, please sign this petition. So that petition will allow you to do that. We need to show our support in outstanding ways. And one of the first things we're going to do is, I see that Alderman Jason Irvin is on the line. I want to ask him to show his support. He thanked Ms. Anjanette Young for her story, as we all do. But as the leader of the Black Caucus, we are looking specifically for you, Alderman Irvin, to show your support. So we love to hear what you're going to say in the chat to let us know if you support this ordinance. That would be absolutely great. And I want to let, for everyone who's on the line, to please scan this barcode, sign your name. You can do it right now. There are many Chicagoans who we believe will stand with us, but they don't know how. So take this thing, this barcode, sign the petition, get your name on it, send it to 10 of your friends and family in the city to ask them to do the same thing. Post this link on your Facebook page, post it on your social media platform, send an email, make a call. By signing this petition, you not only show your support, but you also have an opportunity to put your name on the list to let us know that you want to be contacted for any of the next future actions that we take. Things such as phone banking, a public hearing, a direct action. We need your support. We need your body to be counted in that number. So this is the first step that you can do to let us know you're with us and you're looking to support us in bigger and greater ways. We'll ask you before we call, so you'll have that opportunity on the petition. We need to show the city council that policy like this is important to the people of Chicago. Make your representative actually represent you. Looking forward to hearing from you all. Remember, sign now. And still waiting to hear maybe if Alderman Irvin has a word about how he will support us in the coming days.
Thank you so much, Lucretia and Rebecca. So folks can scan that barcode. We'll have this available for you as well. If you registered for the event, we'll send out an email tomorrow with info, and then folks who are watching this afterwards, you'll be able to find this on the main page. There's also a link in the chat that you can follow directly for that petition. And now our next speaker on a call to action is Pastor Christa Alston.
Good evening, everyone. So glad to be here, to Alderman Haddon and all of our alderwomen who co-sponsored this ordinance. God bless you all. To Sister Anjanette Young, my sister in Christ, Sister Blassingame. You know, I just thank God for you all, because you are women of courage. You are women of faith. You have hope. And that's one thing we have to have, is hope, and know that God is able to do what he said he would do. On the behalf of I'm the moderator of the Progressive District Association of Chicago and vicinity of churches. And as the people of God, we stand with you today, Sister Young, Sister Blassingame, and we are going to heed the call to bring about a change in the city of Chicago, because this unethical, violent, inhumane behavior of the Chicago Police Department must stop. We, as the people of God, are going to stand up. I'm asking all of our pastors in this city of Chicago, and specifically in all of the areas where these raids are taking place, to mobilize their membership, to bring someone in charge of each church to start a petition. Now, I see that the NAACP, they have their independent scanning block. I would like for you all to, if you all could put that in the chat or some kind of way that our churches can even use that as well. I'm also asking our pastors to get a petition started stating that they want the support of their aldermen in their particular areas where they live, and to reach out to do the calls. Everything is virtual now. A lot of churches are streaming live on Facebook every Sunday. We need our churches to announce this ordinance to get people to sign on to the Anjanette Young ordinance via Facebook, on your Instagram pages, Twitter, whatever we have to do, we're going to get it passed because God is already in the plan. And so, Sister Young, I just thank God for your courage. I mean, every time I think about what you went through, I mean, oh my God, that was something to deal with. But we know that God has a plan. And what the devil meant for evil, God meant it for our good. And so just know that we are here for you. We will be working hard to get this ordinance passed. The Progressive District Association, also our Progressive Baptist State Convention is also involved. Alderman Haddon asked us to sponsor this town hall. We didn't get a chance to get on the front end, but we on there now. So we're going to do what we have to do because it must be change in this city. I mean, I cannot imagine anything like this ever happening again to innocent people, law-abiding citizens that work hard every day, educated or whatever. If you have a high school, it doesn't matter. If you have a high school diploma, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. It's about being treated humanely. It's about being respected as an individual. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter what color skin you have. It shouldn't matter what area of the city that you come from. And so tonight, we go forward in this injustice of these no-knock raids. I want to thank everybody that is also an additional a part of the ordinance besides our co-sponsors and Alderman Haddon. And so lastly, one more time, we want to ask the pastors to designate someone to get electronic setup of a petition. Also reach out and sign the Anjanette Young a petition that's already there. If some churches, some people are not technically savvy, but they're it's the truth. But you do have someone, I'm quite sure, in your church that is able to do what needs to be done. Once again, Facebook live streaming on Sundays or whenever you have your Bible studies online, what have you, and to just reach out and let everyone know to please sign the petition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Alston. Thank you for your leadership. We appreciate the support of the Assembly. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
We have shared that link in the chat in addition to the barcode that you guys had. So a few questions. People were asking questions of how do I tell if my alderman's a co-sponsor? When does this come to a vote? What's next? And so our closing speaker here, Torrance Gardner, the Director of Economic and Community Development in my office, is going to work with Neil Waltmeyer from SEIU HC Illinois, show you this interactive tool that they've created to help you answer those questions. And as they get the screen up here, this should get most people's questions answered. We'll share the links in the chat, and we'll also have this, of course, in the comments when we post the recording. So, Torrance, it's all you.
Thank you all, and thank you, Alderman Haddon, and all the folks I've been working with on this coalition, and the courage of Ms. Blassinger's story and Ms. Young's story. We got work to do, y'all. So before we get started, Neil, can you place the links in the chat for both the desktop and the mobile versions as well? So what we witnessed with Anjanette Young is something many have witnessed for far too long. The stories you have heard tonight should have caused such support from all our aldermen, but especially all those that represent many of our Black and Brown communities. What you're about to see is the most recent data taken from a Freedom of Information Act request by CBS 2 back in July of 2020. And what was discovered on these maps is troubling. And we want everyone to be empowered to also have that access and be able to utilize it. So there were at least 1,334 police raids in Chicago in 2019. And as expected, there are many more raids in Black and brown neighborhoods than in white ones. Neil, if you can scroll down. So as you can see, we're gonna go back to this portion. Can you go down lower, Neil? As you can see, it's a tale of two cities. So for West Englewood, in the red dots, was raids that resulted in no arrest, and the black dots are the raids that resulted in an arrest. Compare that to Logan Square, not even comparable. So we had dozens and dozens of raids in West Englewood. And this is an example that can be mimicked throughout most of Chicago, since many of the raids happened in the west and south sides of Chicago. And Neil, if you can scroll down again. We discovered, and what you can discover in the coming seconds when you are able to explore this map, that the highest raid happened, ironically, in our chairman of the Black Caucus's ward, Alderman Jason Irvins, with 112 back in 2019. This is very troubling because compared to his, some aldermen on the north side had 4, some aldermen on the north side had 3, some had 0. We wanted to highlight this to show again the disparities in what's been going on throughout Chicago. And if you scroll down again, Neil. This is the list of the top 10 raids that occurred by number in total in 2019. We highlighted the aldermen in yellow that have not co-sponsored yet. We asked the folks who are in these specific wards, and you'll see how to do that, to really ask them to truly co-sponsor, since their communities were the most affected as of recent data that we have been able to obtain. And Neil, if you can scroll back up. So this is the portion where we're going to show you how you can be empowered to see what's going on in your own neighborhood. Above is a list of tips on how to utilize the map. So there'll be a link there for you guys to click and learn how to use it. But for now, we're going to show you right now how to use it right here live. So you click the map right there. And to the left, first I want to highlight the black dots again are arrests that were made, and the red dots are arrests that yielded no arrest when a raid occurred. So you'll go up and scroll up where Neil is pointing to the search tool right there. You can type in a specific address, Neil. All right. And as you can see, it drops you into, let's say, your house. You can see what raids occurred in 2019 right there instantly by typing your address. Now, you don't just have to type a specific address. Neil, if you can show typing in a neighborhood. And it zooms out for you by typing a neighborhood. To the bottom left, Neil, you can show the plus and minus sign. You can work with that as well manually by zooming out to get a better, clear view on what's going on. And I wanted Neil to zoom out because I wanted to show for effect and let people really see the disparities in raids throughout the city of Chicago. It is startling and it's sad. Now, Neil, you can click on, go back to Logan Square or go back to the specific address that you put in. Now, importantly right now is Neil can click anywhere on this map, and you have to do this if you want to take action. As you can see, by clicking on this map, it instantly pulls up the alderman's name, the ward number, the take action link, which we'll click in a minute, the number of raids, and the number and the raids that yielded no arrest, along with the phone number. Neil, click the take action link. And it sends you straight to an information form that we have filled out. That you put your first name, street address, all your information. And all you have to do is click next. And an email has been drafted for you to send to your alderman or an alderman you wish it to be sent to. So it's 2 clicks from a take action link, your information, next, send off, 3 clicks, sorry. And Neil, if you can go back to the map page. And then we'll try out another alderman just to get you guys really understanding. So another address, and you can also type in institution names as well. So again, clicking on the map pulls up Alderman Christopher Taliaferro. Again, ward number, the take action link right there underneath, number of raids that happened in 2019, number of raids that yielded no arrest, and the phone number. And again, it will be just hitting that link, and boom, you'd be ready to take action instantly. And Neil, if you can go back to the home page, to the page prior to clicking on the map. If you can scroll back up. So you don't also have to use the map if you already feel like you understand or know data or just aren't comfortable with maps. Neil, if you click the take action button directly, and it goes straight to the take action button right there on the site. And again, name, fill out, and it'll have email action drafted up for you to send to that particular alderman. And we do have a mobile version that we will be putting in a link in on the chat and coming after this meeting. And folks can just use the mobile version as well on your phone if you don't have access to desktop. So again, thank you all for taking the time tonight. And let's really, really, really give all folks justice who were victims of police raids, because we do not want to see another Anjanette Young in this coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Torrance, and thank you, Neil. I want to remind folks the links to these tools are in the chat, and we're not taking live questions, but I know there were a couple folks that had their hands up. If you don't mind putting your question in the chat, that would be fantastic. You can also, I'll make sure here to give some contact info. So if you've got some follow-up questions, you can email my office at 49thward.org. You can also give us a call. Phone number is there with those questions, but send us an email, put it in the chat. We'll try and answer it before we wrap here. But we have something that you can do. And some of our goals with this town and all the work that people here, whether it's the tools they've created, phone calls they've made, the meetings they've attended, the ordinance they've helped to draft, or the experiences that they continuously show up to share with us, to remind us of what's wrong. We're all here because we need your support. We need your help. So our ordinance was introduced in February. Right now, we're introduced it to the Committee on Public Safety. We have had a good meeting with Alderman Chris Taliaferro and have a follow-up meeting to work on making sure we can find a path to get this on the agenda, right? So we need to be heard in the Committee on Public Safety. We need to get votes from aldermen in the Committee on Public Safety. Once we have those votes and are passed out of committee, then we'll have the opportunity to have a vote in full City Council. So as we've seen with a lot of other, especially police reform efforts, I know several folks asked about the Empowering Communities for Public Safety Ordinance, ECPS. It can take a lot of time. We face a lot of resistance, but we have not just strong sponsors, we've got strong organizational partners. And as Ms. Young, as Dr. Dates, as Ms. Blasingame, as Pastor Alston have all shared, we're in the right? We've got righteousness and justice on our side. We're making these changes to prevent harm. We're making these changes to protect civil and human rights of Chicagoans, to prevent further trauma. These are straightforward reforms. In the link that we've shared in the chat, SEIU Illinois Healthcare, HC Illinois in Indiana has been wonderful. Neil specifically, we've got a great site. You've got kind of a basic graphics and things that you can share that show the main points of the ordinance. You've got a link to the ordinance, right? And all the information you need, this fantastic tool, right? Where you can type in your address, your place of work, your family member's address. You can look to see that data for 2019 that CBS2 collected, right? On which raids have been happening. You can find out who your elder is. You can easily send them an email asking them to sponsor the ordinance. So we appreciate your help in advance. That individual petition, right? That link is there too. You can circulate that, get people to sign on. We'll be reaching out to you in the next week or so with a couple of accountability hours, some opportunities where different organizations are going to host just maybe an hour that week to make some calls to your alderman, to make some calls to the mayor, to send some emails, because people need to hear community voice, right? We need folks to know, we need our other electeds to know, we need our folks in leadership to know that we're serious, right? What happened to Miss Young, what happened to Miss Blasingame and her family, what's happened to dozens of other Chicagoans, right, who have done nothing wrong, should not happen ever again. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attendance. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to my fellow co-sponsors, Alderman Hairston, Alderman King, Alderman Taylor, and Alderman Coleman. Really appreciate your leadership. Thank you to my staff. Thank you to our sponsors. And so look for an email for us with this recording, with the links and the follow-up. And thank you all for the conversation and things that you've been sharing as well in the presentation. We appreciate you. Good night.
Thank you, Alderwoman Head.